Hey guys, welcome. Muskie Road Podcast, episode number 273. 273, guys. Wow. I can't believe we've actually done this many. Actually, it might be 274. I don't know. I'd have to check. But been doing a lot of these. Thanks for listening. Guys, I would love to hear from you. So shoot us a text on the Lungin Lures text line. That number is 606-776-6729. Shoot us a text. Again, Lungin Lures, makers of the 22 short, 22 long, 22 SS, the Chubby, the Alley Cat series, also the makers of the original Lungin Tail, DC9, DC10, and the Nutbuster Spinnerbait. Again, the text line number is 606-776-6729. As always, guys, tonight's podcast is brought to you by Stealth Tackle. Stealth Tackle is clearly the leader if you're looking for any kind of components. Let's say it's leader material. Let's say it's swivels or snaps or solid rings, any of that stuff. Check out stealthtackle.net, also the maker of the One-Eyed Willie, and they've got a ton of trolling stuff, casting leaders, trolling leaders. You know, just check it out, stealthtackle.net. I don't think you're going to be disappointed. But guys, it's been a day today. We have gotten a ton of rain. Got off the water a little early. We're in full swing here down in the south. And the fishing actually hasn't been too bad. There's been some nice fish caught, fish up to 48 inches. I heard this week there has been a few 50-inch fish caught already this year. With the warmer spring, we're seeing water temps in the low 50s right now. On sunny days, even up into the mid-50s. I don't think we're in a spawn time now. It doesn't seem that way. There are some fish that are up shallow. For me, most of my fish have been coming in and out of the bays. Not really in the backs, but more just the sides of the bays. Seem to be working good. The smaller crankbaits, whether it be rattle baits or, the bass style crankbait stuff under 5 inches, have been really good for getting more of the numbers of fish and finding some of them again on the gravel and the banks going in and out. But I want to hear from guys elsewhere, and that's why tonight I have Andy Schiera. It's Schiera, right, Andy?
Schiera. Yep, you got it.
Andy Schiera on the phone. He's Veterans Guide Service up there on the Fox Chain, Northern Illinois. And Andy, how you doing tonight?
Pretty good. Thank you, Greg. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about here. What your guide service. Now, you are a veteran. Again, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
How did you get into the whole muskie game and the guiding, and kind of give us a little history here?
Sure. Yeah. Back in 2015, I actually started as a guide under Chris Torsano over at T-Bone Guide Service and liked it, kind of jumped into it, actually went full-time with it in 2017, so about 2 seasons later. And I was a firefighter here in Grays Lake, Illinois, ended up kind of giving that a rest and going full-time into guiding. And then I think Chris and I split, kind of had our, just different business ideas, I guess you would say, in 2019 or 19 into 20, I think it was. And then I've been veteranguideservice.com has been my business, and that is my website for any information anybody might need about me currently.
Sure. Well, that's cool, man. So where do you do a lot of your fishing at? I mean, I know you do some traveling, but where do you do a lot of your, give us your
90% of my year is probably the Fox Chain of Lakes and Lake Geneva. I do a little bit on Green Bay. I did that when the border was closed during COVID years. I hit a couple really nice 53 and 4 inch fish out of the bay. And then Lake of the Woods also, but that was kind of back 8 or 10 years ago. It was just a little bit easier to do before I had the younger kids now. So I stay primarily on that Fox Chain of Lakes and Lake Geneva for, I'd say, 9 of my 10-month seasons. So there's enough fish to keep me very happy. There's enough on the Fox Chain of Lakes for newer anglers that are just kind of getting used to reading fish and boat side stuff. So it's the best of both worlds for me. It's pretty close to home.
Yeah. Now, it sounds like to me you're pretty by your pedigree there, you're pretty used to fishing highly, maybe not fishing pressured water, but boat trafficked water.
Both. We have like leagues for every species. There's, Muskie Tails has their own little line of muskie tournaments. We do the Challenge on the Chain annually. And Chicagoland Muskie Hunters does their tournament on Lake Geneva. But there's, bass leagues, Wednesday night bass leagues, WAW walleye leagues. There are youth leagues. There's all kinds of stuff going on out there for high school. So it's definitely fishing pressure too. And oh man, I'm getting kind of sick of it, honestly, but it's about when you fish and how you fish, as well as anybody else. You just got to run through all the yahoos out there and run your program with confidence, and the fish will go. It's just some days, people dropping their bomb out right in front of you. It's about all you can stand to not jump out of your boat and go for a swim.
I get it. I mean, but, as
tremendous stocking though, Greg. That's why we keep coming back.
Yeah, so. No, you guys have got a good fishery up there. So let's go through your season here. It's coming up. I know we spoke a little before we started recording that, it's kind of behind this year as far as your water levels and stuff. So maybe speak a little bit towards that.
Sure.
In your area, you do deal with a drawdown. It's not a natural lake, not a natural reservoir at all. So
that's correct. Yeah, we're about like 9,500 acres, 13 lakes. Some of them are, less than 300 acres. Some of them are 1,200, 1,500 acres on the large side, but all man-made, and we're controlled by the Fox Waterway Agency, and they have us drawn down about 36 to 40 inches for the freeze every year. So it's about 3 feet or a little more. And we started to come up a little bit this spring. About a week ago, we had some rain. And when I say come up a little bit, I think it was 10 or 12 inches of vertical rise from the total drawdown. So we were still low by like 2 feet. But we were starting to get some better crappie fishing in the channels. The walleyes were staging by the creeks. And then the waterway has since drawn it down and suggested to me that they weren't going to put any water in it until normal pool would be like May 1st this year. So that would be, between 2 and 4 weeks later than average. And for that, I think our crappie fishing and walleye fishing this spring is going to be a little bit behind, maybe even days that we're going to call it like good targetable days that you could go out and have a productive day. I think a lot of the panfish are still out in the cribs in the main basin, and I think a lot of the walleyes are not up the creeks yet. So we're here with 50-something degree water temperature, 5 to 10 days ago. What was it? I'd say like around the 15th, we had 50 degrees, and then we had that real big storm come through, got some rain, but they let all that nice rainwater out, and our pool height is down again. So still waiting. I don't have my muskie trips really starting until I would say once April gets here, here in a couple more days, I'll probably be out there 3-4 times a week and kind of be splitting that up between the walleyes and the muskies and the crappies. But then once May comes around, we go like full muskie.
Okay. Now, and I've talked to you about this before, and actually have talked to some guest of yours as well. You do a lot of downsizing early in the year, correct?
Yes, both casting and trolling.
So with that, let's speak to that here, because something that I want to share with people, and I've talked about it myself, and I've kind of changed my views a little bit on it the last, over the years. You kind of always, everything evolves, and what might be something you think a couple years ago, after a while you might think, maybe we should change this a little bit. But what I'm referring to as far as using the small baits, it was always said, or not always, it was kind of alluded to in the past, that, when you go into the smaller baits, maybe upsizing the hooks, is a big thing. Tony Grant, quit trying to call me right now. Hold on. I got to text Tony Grant. Hold on, Tony. I'm podcasting.
No, that's okay.
I'm podcasting.
Problem a lot of times running these tinier baits, a lot of people will say big bait, big fish, little baits. You're kind of going to get the numbers and the males and the juveniles, but not the big ones. I disagree.
Well, what I was going to say is with those smaller baits, the the thing is, guys are saying, well, hey, let's up the hooks on them. Let's do that. And for me,
Absolutely.
I've always, I've done that, but I've found it better instead of upping the hook size is to downsize my equipment.
Yes.
I think you get a better action out of the lure. The lure is meant to be run on lighter stuff. It's not meant for a giant swivel and a giant leader.
Absolutely. The terminal tackle has all got to be parallel, man. Like I go so slender with my walleye lineup that, I only upsize maybe going from like 12 to 15 pound fluorocarbon leader or something like that. But I mean, we're talking by the weight of the lure typically and the hook size. I'm not running a number 2 pike hook or, a number 2 walleye hook on 80-pound gear. I'm going to run that, on maybe like a 30-pound braid with a 15-pound fluoro or something that will jive with that tiny bait.
Sure. That's the thing. I mean, so maybe talk about what would be your typical setup.
I bring two setups, I guess, but we could talk about both if you like, Greg.
Yeah, run what would be both of your setups for early on, getting things going.
So I run 4 to 6 inch baits on your standard 8 and 9 foot heavy trolling. I'm running Stealth 60 inch, 80-pound, very brilliant fluorocarbon leaders. But no, like we were just talking, some of those smaller baits in the 2 to 4 inch range or even 1 to 4 inch range won't run very well at all, or you can't get your diving depth or any action out of them on that pound test gear. So I'll also run some 9.6 and then 7.10 and 6.6, kind of staggering the lengths on my walleye rods. I run medium, heavy, fast power, planer board rods, a little bit faster and heavier than your regular like live bait mediums or whatever, your more moderate fast. So anyway, I like the extra fast or the 8.6 kind of fast for my walleye baits. It's a little bit more rigid for hookups. And, if you're running braid, it's going to be all on the drag anyhow. Hooking percentages are a little bit better with the mono and landing the fish probably as well. But it depends on what I'm trying to do. Sometimes that mono will help me float a balsa lure with some monofilament line, float it way back and away from the boat when the water is clear, where, if it's real bloomy, we might just run flat lines with braid, very short lines. So it really depends on what we're doing, but we do start typically running something in your like number 5 shad wrap, very basic walleye size spring lure or something, 2 inches, diving 4 to 6 feet, balsa. It's a great little lure. You can run them painted. You can run them chrome. It doesn't have to be a shad wrap. Just an example, you can run any of your typical walleye lures, Greg, work really well. For casting, we do a lot of like your big dude blade baits, your number 7 or even number 6 rip and wraps. But the hooks are a little bit nicer. You can get a number 4 walleye hook on the number 7. So those are like the bread and butter. We land, a few 30-plus pound fish a year on those, but it's usually pretty sketchy. And I try not to I try to go with anytime I can. I try to go with the heavier fluoro and the heavier gear. And, some days it's just flat calm or the fish are stuck to the bottom. And, those days can be really productive running these really tiny micro baits, walleye lures. I mean, the Selmo Hornet is a great one. It's already kind of been cats out of the bag, but they're balsa, or they have a rattling one as well. It just depends again on kind of water clarity and where the fish are set up. But both can be really productive, and they're like less than 2 inches long in some of the models. And if a guy is patient enough to tune it and put it on really light, in that like 10 to 14 pound mono or fluorocarbon kind of mainline and leader material, I mean, it's really all you need. Mm-hmm. It just can be tough converting some of these bigger fish. We're talking about number 14 and 16 treble hooks that come on some of these. So for that, I try to stray away from the baits under 2 inches, man. If I can't put a decent size like walleye or pike hook on it, I don't really like fishing those tiny little lures as much anymore. We've landed a lot of 4-footers and 48s and, maybe a 49, but just getting something 40 plus pounds in the boat on like a number 12, 14, or 16 walleye hook is not real probable. It can happen, but you got to have somebody who doesn't put too much heat on it. And then you put somebody on braid who who's not used to the direct effect. The mono, it can maybe handle that small hook, but you start running braid with some of these for getting a better dive curve and a little better vibration. Now you start losing, the playing the fish and getting them to the bag, which is kind of the important part. So it's a very delicate double-sided knife.
Yeah. What's the, for you, what is the brand of rod? You talk about a fast action rod. What ones do you like?
Well, I'm still running Vexen. Back 5-6 years ago, James Halworth, I think, sold the company, but he was the old guy that I was sponsored through, and haven't really talked to the new owners, but their product is pretty great. As far as trolling rods go, I haven't used any of their other lineup, but their Vexen walleye trolling rods, 8.6. This one here is a 8.6 medium heavy planer board rod, walleye trolling Vexen, and it's a little bit faster of a tip than your standard, like if you just got a medium Fenwick planer board rod or something. It doesn't hook up quite as well as the little bit faster ones do. So just making sure it's a medium heavy or more of a planer board rod, not a live bait rod, something a bit more rigid.
What is the on that? What kind of reel are you partnering that up with?
So a couple different ones. Just your Daiwa Sea Line is really good, or the Abu Garcia 6500 Ambassador. I actually have a lot of those. I'm using currently, I think, 8 or 10 of them, and they're just bulletproof. Those little Ambassador Abu Garcia 6500 LCs, they've been really good to me. They've been rebuilt. Dave's Reel Service, I think.
What
by Mark there, and that's the guy I use. So
so with those, are you using a counter on those or no?
Yeah, absolutely. They're a line counted, just a little larger, like Great Lakes walleye size spool. So you can run, if you're running monofilament or 15-pound mono or something like that, you could still run, several hundred feet.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if they were if they were the line counter model or not.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's the only way you can really duplicate, especially when you're doing anything with, real shallow water or planer boards. It's nice having line counters.
Sure. What is the, as far as your board, how do you have that set up?
So it depends. If I'm running these little micro baits, I run some Yellowbird minis. Mm-hmm. They're like index card size, maybe even a little touch smaller than that. Or, if we're running like a number 7 flicker shad or something, I could even run that on like the church walleye boards that most people run for muskies, the orange ones. Mm-hmm. I like offshores with the locking OR20 clip on the front nose as well. Those are great. If a guy has got the offshores, it just depends on what line I'm running, because the OR20 clips are made for up to like 18-pound mono for fishing walleyes or whatever, so you can actually troll like 80-pound braid in these walleye locking clips, and they don't slip. So for trolling bucktails on braid, I like running an offshore. Yellowbirds, I like their minis. And I guess other than that, I just have different boards for different things. I got the big church, the 44 mags or whatever for running like my 12-inch headlocks. So got to have some different boards, different clips for different line diameters.
Sure. So, but early in this season, you're doing a lot of the smaller stuff, probably picking up a variety of species of fish too, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, quite honestly, most people, I push it as more of a multi-species thing with the possibility of, but it's a great way to keep tabs on like when our fish are kind of getting done and when we can start casting at them more too. So yeah, we've had 10 fish days doing it where it's your biggest fish might be like 45 or 6 inches, but no one seems to care. If you were walleye fishing, you're now muskie fishing,
Sure.
People get so amped on it, on the light tackle. And it's just really important if guys are doing this, like, hey, it's amazing how delicate these big fish can be. They're not choking these baits. A lot of guys are probably thinking like we're getting them in the gullet and we're killing them. And I'm not killing any fish. Delayed mortality wise, we're not hooking fish bad enough. So I don't use this gear when the water's warm. I'll stress that real hard. That water's over like 60, 65 degrees. I will not use any of this, lighter braid or like 12-pound mono or stuff like that. These fish will have, such a high stress, you will kill them and you'll release them, but they'll be, bleeding from all their fins from all the strain and the redness will be coming through their scales, and they just fight themselves to death on that real light gear. So we try to go to the heavy 9-foot heavy trolling stuff as soon as the water temps get to about 55, 60 degrees. And that way, on that heavier drag, we can get them in the bag and get them reoxygenating much faster and not stressing them out for an 8 or 10 minute fight on medium heavy gear.
Sure. What's your water temps right now? Do you know?
Yeah, 43, 44. And it's just what sucks is when the water finally does come up, it's going to come up in a way that cools us off 8 or 10 degrees usually. So I think that, like, even though things are starting to look like spring, it's probably going to be a couple more weeks before things kind of stabilize and we start growing weeds here where we hold at 52 or 3 degrees. I think that might be a couple weeks out yet.
Sure. Okay. So you guys have, see, our water temps are already warming up pretty good down here just because of the warm spring. I mean, we've had some up and down temperatures, but for the most part, it's been fairly nice this spring. But
yeah, we had a couple really great weeks, Greg, and then just like this last 10 days, our lows snapped back in the 20s and kind of just brought us back to, the yuck.
Sure. So all right, once the water comes up, you kind of get out of this, it starts warming. What are you looking for, let's say, in that early June going into summer? What's that kind of do for you?
Oh, early June's great. You're still hitting some of your April, May spots like the bays and the curly tail pondweed, but early June I'm focusing more on coontail and a little bit deeper break lines, and we're getting into throwing heavier bucktails and rubber. And that's any of the lakes that have more than 10 feet of water. I'm trying to get out there in the basin a little bit more, on those secondaries a little bit more. And typically the deeper we go, the bigger fish we see, and maybe fish that haven't been caught quite as many times either. So last year we had really good weeds. They kept our pool height at a normal pool very regularly. It didn't have any fluctuation or low water where our weeds were to get burned. So our fish stayed in the weeds a little bit more than usual. And we had a few less pelagic fish roaming around for open water trolling or rubber. But each year can be a little different. If the weeds are looking really green still that first couple weeks of June, they usually are. We're fishing in the weeds until probably 10, 11 o'clock, and then we'll slide out and maybe start throwing some rubber on the edges or trolling the open water. It's kind of seeing where our bait's at.
Sure.
But it's nice. We have a lot of different lakes. Last year I was having trouble running into 5, 6, maybe 8 or 9 other muskie boats trying to troll on some of these 500 and 600 acre lakes. So I was running all over. And what we found was the numbers are a little bit lower on the southern half of the chain, but the anglers are also a lot less. Mm-hmm. So I think overall, we were still converting the same amount of fish per day as you would on the more populated muskie lakes on the north end. So Pistachey, Fox, they're not really great muskie lakes or known muskie lakes on the Fox chain, but you can go down there and catch a few of them, if you put your pattern together. So
sure. No, I think that's definitely something. And you're getting into summertime then too. You're probably having to, your fishing times. I mean, do you alter that with the boat traffic?
Yes. Well, I try, for the most part, my casting trips, I'm trying to get started really early, or we come out more when they're, heading in for the night and doing a sunset and maybe a little after dark. But sometimes you just got to fish that middle of the day because you have a colder, low temperature that week or whatever. And it really sucks getting pounded by boats, but knowing your way around 10,000 acres, bigger lakes than the Fox chain out there for sure. But it's been kind of a unique one because there's a lot of residential and urban, and this is not a man-made channel, but it's now 5 feet deep and goes through to this cool little protected lake, or there's just a lot of neat stuff out there. So I guess for that, if nobody's ever been and all they've heard are the horror stories about the boat accidents and all that, come out early or late season, or we'll do something before 9 a.m.
Yeah,
it gets pretty wild come June when school's out.
Oh yeah. No, I've been out there a few times. It was pretty crazy. Nothing is as nuts as West Okoboji in Iowa. That is the most insane place.
And ever. Those are triple digit speedboats there.
Well, and it's just it doesn't matter. You can't get on plane half the time because there's so many boats. It's it's amazing. I seen a lot of twerking by some non-twerkables.
You are not supposed to be doing that.
No, a couple of them looked like Tony was twerking. It was not good. My partner back then was not supposed to twerk. He's a non-twerkable. But
hey, at least we know where we belong sometimes.
Yes. Oh God. Maybe that's why he was trying to call me. He was wanting to twerk. No, I mean, I can understand the boat traffic and stuff out there, but and I'd say you can allude to this as well. I mean, the boat traffic bothers us more than it does the fish a lot of times.
Oh yeah.
They're again kind of used to it. It might, you may not find them up in the super shallow water, but oh God, I don't know why.
The first couple weeks of summer break, they're a little sketchy, right? And then I swear to God, I'll have them eat a topwater bait in somebody else's prop wash wake or, some wakeboarder shit. I think they go numb to it, man. There's so much frequency and vibration and shit going on in the water that it's like a constant noise.
Yeah, I think that has something to do with it. I mean, it's not, again, I think it bothers us way more than it bothers them. And that's at the end of the day, I think that's kind of it. But, moving on throughout the year, though, I mean, you get into like your later summer pattern there. What are you looking at there? And are you changing lakes? I know you don't just do the Fox chain, but
yeah,
are you starting
I jump to
change
Geneva
more?
as soon as our water hits, that 80-degree mark or gets close to it. That usually means Lake Geneva is just about ready.
Is that cause Geneva's so deep, or why is that?
Yes. Now everything from the narrows of that lake to the west has like a mean depth of like 100 or 90 feet. It's ridiculous. So,
Crazy.
Yeah, the basin on the east side of the narrows has a mean depth of 60 feet. Not that bad. So that side of the lake, east side of the lake, warms up much faster. So you can start approaching like that 73 to 5 degree surface temperature.
Mm-hmm.
We'll say the third, fourth week of June. Like usually I'll be out there in early June waiting on it to get ready to go. But the last couple of years, the bite's been so good on the Fox chain, it's been really hard to get off of it. And you get out to Lake Geneva and you're dealing with fishing in a washing machine. Like come August, that's peak boat season. That's when all the, summer home families are up there using their wakeboard boats and don't know how to operate them. Mm-hmm. So we deal with a lot of that on Lake Geneva. And I changed to Lake Geneva. Usually if you just said after the 4th of July, that's when you'll see me out there. And for anybody listening, that's when my guide trips start. So, that's great. You guys get out there and give it a go and see what it's all about. And I got some really cool, unique ways that I try to get after these fish with, not just counting baits down, but a lot of different bait modifications to kind of get their attention from way far away.
Sure.
I'm still against the streaming 3D sonar a little bit, the forward-facing stuff. I just really, it never really clicked with me. I had it in the boat for a couple weeks, a buddy's unit. It's really nice technology, and I understand I would catch probably a lot more fish using it. I like a little bit of the mystery still, and I still like trying to decode and kind of figure it out a little bit. And maybe I'm like 30 years older than I am representative of, but I don't know, man. I've seen it trolling. I've seen it live bait fishing. I've seen it in its, LVS 34, like peak, really good resolution, watching a fish's fin posture on it. It's amazing. And I think if I had it, I would never look away from it ever. So I'm just that kind of guy where, I would rather old school kind of feel my way through. And I don't want to be the guy who hates on live scope either. I think it's brilliant. I don't really have a problem with it if guys are releasing fish. Hey, if the fish is willing to eat your bait, my hat's off to you. Just don't be fishing them, 40 feet down or nothing. You'd be all right.
Sure. So let's talk about Geneva. Real clear water. I was told, never been out there. Also, massive bait fish population.
Yes. So huge profiles are a thing. Like my pattern is specifically oversized rubber and oversized bucktails. Like I have gotten a few fish on Poseidon 10s, but I've gotten a few dozen fish on Poseidon 12s. Like bigger is better. It is definitely a thing. I'm trying to spook Cisco's that maybe they may be 15 or 20 feet below the surface. It's about 30 feet of visibility. So for the average person to say, like, you only want to target fish in the top 15 feet of the water column or whatever, it's a little bit ridiculous out there. I watch these fish come off the bottom in 25 or even 30 feet and swim straight up into a figure eight. Like, it's unbelievable. They're very, very quick. You know, they're down in 50-something degree water most of the year. And as long as we're not jigging them and they're coming up into my figure eight, I feel like we should put hooks in their face. So that's big baits, trying to spook the Cisco's, fishing all completely open water. I have not caught one muskie out of the weeds on Lake Geneva.
Oh, wow. Why do you think that is?
Because I don't fish them.
That's probably why.
The coontail is really good, Greg, from like 24, well, we'll say 21 to 24 feet is the deeper of the coontail. And then the coontail goes out to sandgrass. It's out to like 30, 32. Light's penetrating like 32, 33 feet. So a lot of times these muskies are 35 to 45 feet of water, you know, and they're suspending during moon and low light windows. They're sitting, you know, within a foot of bottom most of the day, watching the bottom of a school of Cisco's. So if you can throw something, count it down to the depth of those Cisco's, and then, you know, like, let's just say, like a monster Medusa instead of a husky, or, you know, a pounder. It's big, but anything huge, anything you can get down there, the bigger, the better. And so I'm running like these, what is it? The King Daddy Royal Orba. And I got some upsize blades on that, plus 2 ounces on that to help it dive a little faster. We've been doing these boo tubes out there, have been working, the real big ones. And then I think they're like a 12-inch. And then, yeah, again, the Poseidon 12 has just been a staple. It falls like you put a couple ounces extra on the hook hangers or the nose clip on that thing, and it falls like 5-6 feet a second, you know. And if a guy's patient, I've had more fish eat that bait while it's falling than on a steady retrieve. So if the guy's patient, counting it down different numbers, and all of a sudden you just open up and you're on. It's crazy. But that's kind of been my deal out there, trying to find, I think, in a couple more years when our Leech Lake fish were put in there in 2016, where our Wisconsin's, a lot of the clear and some of the Wisconsin River strain fish, I think some bards, but a lot of green and clear fish, those are the ones hitting 50 right now. And I think in another like 3 or 4 years, we should start to see those fish approach that 10-year mark and hopefully 50-inch mark. So I want to see what the leechers look like out of there. We're getting, you know, 4-footers with a 24-inch girth in the middle of July. And it's like, aren't you guys post-spawn like right now? Shouldn't you look like a dried up tube sock? What's going on with you?
Yeah, I think it's a lot, you know, that much forage. I think those fish can just eat.
They do not need to eat. They poop all over you every time.
Oh, I'm sure. So how long are you spending out there?
It really depends. There's, like, my guide trips out there are 6 hours, Greg, but I'll do, if a guy's real serious and he's coming from like out of town, we'll do like the first 6 hours of the day and the last. And, you know, our first couple are black ops. Our last couple are usually, you know, after sunset, we might throw a troll down for a couple hours, but it's hard to fish straight through the day. You get so many power boaters and stuff kind of knowing their peak windows, usually peak temperature of the day. So like that, unfortunately, that warmest part of the day that we kind of love as muskie fishermen is a really good time to be out there fishing. Also, if you're patient enough and, you know, you wait for everyone to leave or you put in after it's already dark, there's an incredible trolling bite that goes out there late in the year. You know, it really depends. That has been really versatile for me, but we've legitimately caught fish on, you know, the 6-inch tough shad all the way up to 12-inch headlocks. So I haven't really quite pinpointed what they want year after year. I've had more success trolling bucktails out there than crankbaits. Do that, you know, even as late as like November sometimes. Some years that lake is still 60 degrees in November. So
sure.
Takes a while to cool off.
So deep and clear. I can totally see that. How does your fall? I mean, once you get in that, like, let's say late August, September, early October, I mean, are you still Geneva or are you still doing?
Oh, Geneva sucks pretty much the second half of August, and it's going through turnover, like the pre-turn funk for all of September and October. Those fish are sitting out in like 50 feet of water, sitting on the bottom, not suspending at all. They're sick of summer. I don't know what it is. I haven't figured them out. Once you get into that time of year, I'm on the fox chain again. Usually running, get back to the fox chain around Labor Day or maybe a week before. But that really has had a great shad push for their spawn, their staging, and their push into the weeds. The last couple of years has been like so ongoing because we'll have like this awesome cold front sends them all into the weeds, and then this gentle warmth was still cool enough nights, and it just kept all of our shad really shallow. And last year I had fish in the piers in the third week of October, and that is like, I'm usually fishing 30 feet of water throwing rubber by then, but last year it was so warm and so weird, and it didn't really snap to, late season. So we were even trying to run, some different presentations out there, but we had a couple fish that we caught on suckers, which was a first for me. And I don't know. Well, it's also the first time I'd ran them in a couple seasons, but our visibility is usually less than 3 feet. So you can understand why a guy doesn't spend a lot of money on live bait. And then I'm back on Lake Geneva, typically November, December, but the last 3 to 5 years, it's been way better in December and January.
Okay.
So like when the muskie season closes, we start catching a lot of muskies on our walleye lures out there, and it's unfortunate that we can't go target them, but it is what it is.
Sure. Now, did it freeze this year? Did it actually freeze over?
Partially. I mean, there were guys in the middle of the coldest stretch we had. I was able to launch my boat in Fontana. It was, just for a little reconnaissance lap. I went out and caught one fish. Told the wife I could run a trip, and then I think about the time I was ready to start doing that, everything opened up here down in Illinois, and we started running some crappie trips. So Lake Geneva never froze all the way across this year. The bays did. Geneva Bay and Williams Bay are the most populated for ice fishing, and guys were out fishing Geneva Bay for a little while, but Williams Bay was only froze solid all the way across. It's a little deeper too. The middle of that bay is like 90 feet, and that one was only froze maybe a third of the way out, like point to point. Didn't even freeze the entire bay this year. So just strange. We've had a lot of lack of snowfall and kind of subpar for temperatures. Our ice season used to be much longer in this kind of area of the ice belt and the Muskie belt. Northern Illinois, we used to lock into ice by like third week of November and fish ice until St. Patrick's Day. And now I sold all my ice fishing gear because I got an awesome bite on Lake Geneva in January, the Wisconsin River in February, and Fox River in March. It just, everything's been going so much earlier around the last few years. It's made my job a little bit easier, really.
Yeah, we're, now, you said you guys got a little bit of rain here this week, or?
Yeah, we had maybe half inch or so today, and then 2-3 days ago we had maybe like a quarter inch. Nothing that's really like screaming springtime for these fish, though, and that waterway agency having us back to basically winter pool, which is 36 inches lower than where our normal pool height should be, and that's where we're at right now. So we're just kind of drawn down, and everything's like muck yuck bottoms. A guy with a jack plate and a badass bass cat or a phoenix right now would have a hard time navigating. A lot of these areas are fucking 8, 10, 12 inches deep to get through. So
the channels between the lakes are pretty bad.
Some of them, yeah, especially the ones that haven't been dredged in a while. So I actually was trying to get into one of my crappie spots using my kicker motor, and we got high sided on the keel of the boat, and it went from like 18 inches to like 10. And I'm just so used to the same lockmaster or waterway agency employee controlled the locks every year, and then I guess the year they had the locks redone, they also had some like 30-year employee retire, and they got some new guy. So I'm talking to the new guy, and I'm talking to the DNR and the local waterway agency, and I'm getting the same thing, like, be patient, we're going to put water in, but it's probably going to be mid-April so that we're at normal pool by May 1st, because all they're concerned with is boat traffic and the bars and the revenue. And I think all their tax dollars they're trying to protect are on, like, I don't know, the governor's house is down in like the South River, and we get a lot of melt, or, if they make a bad pool height judgment call and that's all underwater, I think they're paying for it. So they kind of keep us drawn down a little extra,
Sure. I get it, man. I understand. I know how the deal works. So I hope, hopefully they get that figured out for you. So
yeah. How's it been now by you this year?
It's been okay. I mean, we've got, our water levels are down. Everybody always asks, well, when's it going to flood this year? And, the answer I always give is, well, whenever it rains. We don't know. The water temps are a little up. It seems like the bite's been pretty decent.
It sounds like you guys got weeds like 51, 2, 3 degrees, you said?
Yeah, our weeds down here, though, have really changed a lot. The milfoil, there's areas that were just loaded with it that are now just bare. We've got a type of, I think it's a type of like that curly leaf pondweed that is,
it kind of looks like a crimped hair.
is kind of, it grows, but it doesn't seem to hold fish.
Oh man, by us, that's all of our pre-spawn time period. Our April, May stuff is all, as soon as we hit that 50-degree mark, I'll look for that curly tail and all the base. But then we kind of have this milfoil transition before they go to coontail. So I understand they like the shitweed. Sometimes it just depends on the depth and the light penetration they want, I think.
Sure. Yeah, we have a lot of different stuff. I really like fishing the milfoil. It seems to always hold more fish, but if you don't have it, you don't have it. And but I mean, it's just weird. Some of our areas that were really, really loaded with weeds for 20 years now have no weeds.
Rich, fertile areas that seem to kind of dried out.
That, or they were killed, or I don't know what happened. It's just weird that one day it just goes away.
I think you have so much fluctuation in your pool height, dude. The amount of silt and mud and shit that gets blown and drawn through all these areas, that's got to really affect, the way your weed beds lay out year to year and everything.
It does, but the same thing is below the dam here at Cave Run, which fluctuates a ton, has beautiful weeds.
Okay.
So I don't get it. I don't know what the deal is and really understand how there's.
Is it the weather or the ecology? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, it's I don't know what we got happening right now, but the casting bite seems to be a little bit better than the trolling bite down here. Normally, it's a really good trolling bite early, and it seems like the fish may be up a little shallower. There have been fish caught pulling baits, and maybe it'll get better here over the next couple weeks, but. The casting bite has seemed to be a little bit better. Your smaller stuff, a lot of
straight retrieve stuff or pull paws, gliders.
The
switch.
Straight retrieve, the Lungin mixed the rattling shad. That's been good. Just regular old Bill Lewis. Rattle baits have been good. The KVD 4.0s are always a good choice, and then I've been throwing a lot of the Savage and the Spro. Small lifelike glide baits, the shining glides,
the live sucker, shiner, all that stuff,
or the Chad Shad from Spro is been a good one for me too. Just smaller lifelike looking glide baits. Water clarity is pretty decent. You can see a couple of feet, which for us is a lot. So it hasn't been bad. We got rain today. It's not going to muck up too much. We didn't get enough to really do anything, and I think it's going to be a good deal. It seems like we got about another damn near a month for the PMTT, so we got a lot of time left before that gets going. So,
well, your fish got like a month until they're done spawning, I bet. So it's about perfect.
Yeah, they'll. I'm sure we have some that have started, but I don't think we have very many because it's just I could just tell by the way the fish are setting up that. A lot of the fish that we've been targeting have not spawned. I'm sure we're going to hit a spell where that changes.
Sure. But our males and young females will be in there first for sure. You'll have a bunch of little snock rocket stalker males following around a 36-inch female, and you're like, hey, you guys are like not the ones I'm looking for.
Oh, yeah.
We get this crazy fluctuation in pool height, just like you guys, just not 20 feet at a time, I suppose. But that definitely can fuck with your water temperatures, or excuse my language. You get that, significant rise in pool height, and you can sometimes come down 5 or 10 degrees in like a day or two.
Sure.
Oh boy.
That'll
the rewind button.
that'll change things. But Andy, how can somebody get a hold of you if they want to go fishing with you?
So I have my email and cell phone on my website, Greg. That's veteranguideservice.com. So if anybody wants to look me up, shoot me a text, a voicemail, or whatever's the best way at your convenience to reach out, and I'll get back to you.
All right. Well, good deal. Well, guys, if you want to get onto a trip and you're up in the Chicagoland area or, either southern Wisconsin or something like that, and you want to learn some of the more local waters and even the Fox Chain Lake Geneva, make sure you check out Andy and give him a holler. And if you want to come south, I'd love to take you fishing down here. It's going to be a lot hotter than where he is, temperature-wise. We'll be hitting up pretty warm. I'm going to be down here till early June, and then I'll head back north up to Lake of the Woods for the summer and
good man.
Minnesota into the fall. So yeah, no, a lot of cool stuff, a lot of good stuff happening. So, well, Andy, hey, I appreciate you coming on here tonight, and I appreciate all that you've done and helped out with Muskie Hunter in the past and stuff. And
thank you so much it's been my pleasure.
I'm sure we'll be doing some stuff in the future, okay?
Sounds good.
All right, buddy. You take care, and we will talk to you later.
All right. Thank you.